Alrighty, everybody. Welcome back to the Residence Life Speaker Series. My name is Justin Brown, here with my co-host,
Leah Paulson.
This program was brought to you by Residence Life and Housing Services. And today we are here with the amazing Danielle Fishel. She's beautiful, everybody. She's talented, and she's here to talk with you all today. Danielle, how are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for asking me to do this. This is fun.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you for being with us. Now, obviously, Danielle does not need an intro at all, but we would not be doing her justice if we did it. She's an American actress, director, model, television personality. Listen, she does it all.
Wait, I have a question. Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
This is the second interview I've done this week where somebody's called me a model, and I'm like, where did they get that information? I've never been a model, but is it from Wikipedia?
It might be from Wiki.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm gonna accept it, but both times I've been like, I don't know where they get.
Sure, you haven't modeled anything? Not at all.
She's just very objectively beautiful, so I think we might just assume.
Thank you. That's very kind. I don't think that's good. I'm like this tall, by the way. I'm maybe a little taller than this, so no one's asking me to model.
Just go for it.
That's what I'm saying. I'm gonna
go for it.
My Wikipedia used to say I was also a chef, and I was like, I make mac and cheese at best. Like,
okay.
That's it.
Well, then the rest of this intro might be a little awkward, but we'll just get through it, okay? And if you're not a model now, maybe it'll happen from your mouth to God's ear.
That's right.
It could happen. But you're perhaps best known for being Topanga Lawrence in Boy Meets World and the sequel Girl Meets World. You're also the host of Style Network's The Dish. Maybe that's where they think you're the chef from?
I don't know. Maybe it wasn't a cooking show.
And you've been a spokeswoman and a reporter, though, for many businesses, too. So maybe that's where the model thing comes from.
That's true. I guess I do model my hair for my hair care company.
Okay, well, see, we're going to be talking about that today. We're going to be talking about a lot of things. So how are you?
I am doing well. I am quarantined here at home in Los Angeles with my husband and my 10-and-a-half-month-old baby.
Okay.
And a dog and a cat.
Nice.
And we're staying busy as we can. We're staying positive. We're staying inside, other than going for 2 walks with our dog morning and night.
Okay. Very nice. You have any funny quarantine stories? Like, I've been sharing a funny quarantine story that my daughter doesn't know what commercials are because she just has an iPad. And the other day, iPad died. And I'm like, okay, well, we're going to turn on TV. She's like, Daddy, I'm ready for Paw Patrol to come on. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, just wait for it. She's like, I don't want to wait. Why can't you just press the button? And I'm like, baby, this is television.
This is
all right.
A different thing. Yeah,
this is a different thing. You have any funny quarantine stories?
I guess my funny quarantine story is that on day 2 or 3 of the lockdown, my husband was laid off. Oh, it's not, that part's not funny. That's not the funny part. But the next morning he woke up and he said, I had a dream that we were hosting a trivia show and we just gave away prizes from our house. And I was like, why don't we just do that? And so that night we started an Instagram live trivia game show. We call it the first socially distant trivia game show, and it's called Scorantine.
Oh, and that is so cool. That's very creative.
We now host it 3 nights a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We go live from our house at 7 p.m. And we spend about, 45 minutes throughout the day, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, walking around our house looking for prizes. Okay. We usually give away somewhere between 3 and 5 gifts. And we let people come into our Instagram lives. We ask them a trivia question and we give stuff away.
That is so cool. So before we even jump into all of this, if people want to follow you on social media, what are some of your social media handles?
I'm at Danielle Fishel on both Instagram and Twitter. But I also started a hair care line last year when I was pregnant. It's a clean hair care line, cruelty-free, no sulfates or phthalates. It's really healthy and good for you, and it's awesome. And that's at Be Free by Danielle Fishel on Instagram and at Be Free by DF on Twitter.
Awesome. We're going to probably ask you to plug those again. So Danielle, one of the reasons I was like, oh, got to have Danielle. There was one time when I was doing some Comic-Con work where I had bumped into 2 of your cast members and I hung out with them for the day. So I was hanging out with Will, which was pretty cool. And I got to hang out. Yeah. And Hunter.
Yeah, Sean Hunter. Yeah, Writer Strong.
Yeah, Writer Strong. And basically all I did for them during the day was, hey, you thirsty? Need some water? Here's another marker. Sorry, your marker ran out. Sorry, little girl, you can't take a picture with your cell phone. You have to pay them for it. But they shared a lot of cool things. They were really down to earth. And I was like, you know what? It'd be really cool to have Danielle on here. So we're just so happy that you're with us today.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. Will is actually a neighbor. He lives right down the street from me.
That's awesome.
And he was a socially distant guest on Squarantine. He came and stood about 8 feet behind us through double paned glass. I stood on the other side of our doors, and he brought his own prize. He brought a stuffed squirrel because he plays with squirrels in an episode of Boy Meets World. And then he autographed the squirrel and left it behind the glass. And after he left, we picked it up and then disinfected it and shipped it to the winner.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny. We met one of his really, really good friends. He was on our show 2 weeks ago. His name is Steve Bloom. He's a voice actor.
Yeah.
So
much voice work.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. Have you done any voice acting?
I did. Yeah, I did a movie called The Chosen One a few years ago. And
okay.
Yeah, I've done some voiceover stuff.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Leah's going to go ahead and take over for this. We're going to call on some people that are really excited to ask you questions. So let's go ahead and get started with that.
Cool.
Yes, I know. I am so excited. I actually was telling my friend that we were going to have you last night, and he was like, I can see that you probably took a lot of inspiration from Topanga as a child, like a strong, independent, intelligent woman. I was like, that is a huge compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good, I mean, it's a compliment for me too. I'm like the luckiest person in the world that I got to play her, a lot of her qualities and characteristics rubbed off on me too. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So our first question is from Ashley. So Ashley, go ahead and ask your question.
Hey. Hi, Danielle. I'm so excited to be here. I'm a friend of Justin's, and he invited me to be here. And because he had gone to Comic-Con and met some of your castmates and had told me, I promise I'm going to hook you up someday. So here I am. My birthday's tomorrow too. So this is like a great.
Happy birthday, my fellow Taurian. I was May 5th. So I just.
Awesome. Taurus's rule. I grew up watching you on TJF when I was a little girl, and Boy Meets World has been my favorite show forever. So my question for you is, what is the first thing you're going to do once quarantine is over?
Man, the first thing I'm going to do when quarantine is over, it's going to be hard. My son is turning 1 on June 24th. And I'm finding it very hard to believe that we're not going to be able to have any sort of big family first birthday party for him, or even just not family, just even, my best friend who has kids. I was really looking forward to that. So like a lot of people whose lives and plans are on hold and they're saying, we'll make that up when quarantine is over. I think the one thing I'm definitely going to make sure I do is throw him a proper birthday party with at least family. If we don't get to do it in June, which it's not looking like we will. It looks like our stay-at-home orders here in California are going to go through at least July. So I'm going to throw my son a proper birthday party.
That's awesome. Thank you. So our next question is from Emma. So Emma, go ahead and ask your question. Emma B.
Yay, okay. So I loved Girl Meets World. I watched that show, just like made me cry like a few times. Like it was super emotional. I'm so sad that didn't have more seasons. But I wanted to ask, in Girl Meets World and Boy Meets World, who's your favorite guest star to work with from each show?
Oh, wow. What a great question. On Boy Meets World, we were really fortunate to have Brittany Murphy. She played like Topanga's best friend in a couple episodes, and she was an incredible bright light and really fun and super funny. And I really enjoyed working with her. So as far as guest star goes on Boy Meets World, I would say Brittany Murphy. And then on Girl Meets World, man, gosh, we had a lot of great guest stars on that show too. I mean, anytime we had the entire cast or most of the entire cast back, like when we did the Christmas episode and Betsy Randall came back, Amy Matthews, and, we got to do a little bit of like her kind of making fun of my cooking and just like, being kind of a typical mother-in-law. That was really fun. Anytime we got to have the old cast back and we were all together, it was really fun.
Awesome. Thank you, Emma, for that question. So Meg, I love your question. I could not have worded it better myself. So go ahead and ask your question.
Thanks, Leah. Hi, Danielle. I'm trying not to fangirl. It's really hard. For any like 90s babies in the room, I'm like sweating really bad. It's like, oh my God, this is so exciting. I'm not going to cry. So hello, you were my first feminist icon from the episode where you kissed Corey on the lockers to when you proposed to him. I know that the writers have a lot to do with your character development, but I know in my heart of hearts that this is also very much you. I loved how you were always portraying someone who was smashing gender roles, and you were smart and you were strong, and you didn't allow your partner, Corey, to define you throughout the entire series, both Boy Meets World and Girl Meets World.
Yeah.
Did you realize at the time that your character was as progressive as she was? And then the second half would be kind of, what are some of your favorite takeaways or lessons from being Topanga?
At the time, I can honestly say no. I had no idea how long lasting I knew that she was unique. I knew that she was unlike any other girl or female, certainly child, that I had ever seen on TV before. I knew that. But because we didn't have social media and there was really no way for immediate feedback from the episodes, I never knew what the response was. You know, we felt like we created these shows, which to us kind of felt like home movies. Like we felt like we did them basically for our grandparents, you know, like our grandparents would come and watch the taping and would be like, did you guys enjoy that? Good. All right. I guess that was fun. And then it would go out into the world 4 months later is usually when it would air. It would air 4 to 6 months later. And then we would never hear anything about it again. My dog has decided to rub himself all over the rug. And so if you hear, rah, rah, rah,
I was wondering what that was, but I wasn't going to say anything. I was going to let it go.
This is my husband does a podcast, and he's got his podcast up here, but that's our dog brunch.
That's funny.
All right. So anyway, that's what that noise is. So no, I honestly did not know how, impactful Topanga was going to be. I certainly didn't know how timely she was going to be for decades. People still to this day send me clips of things that she said, like the classic one where she's in a toga and she's talking about, you know, war and having men underground, using them for breeding purposes only. And like, there are certain things that I think if you had told me at the time, this is something that 25 years or 30 years from now, people are still going to be quoting, I would not believe you. So I didn't know that at the time. And some of my favorite takeaways from Topanga, and I say now, like, I don't know whether Danielle impacted Topanga more or if Topanga impacted me more, but we are now so similar. I'd always just describe her as being just on the other side of my heart. Like, she is such a part of me. And I think my favorite takeaway from her is that, you know, I don't know, just, it's hard to put it into words. And it also is hard to say it and not feel like I'm talking about myself instead of talking about her. I really am talking about her, but like, she never backed down from her beliefs, and even when it was really super hard. And there have been times in my life where I've gone through things where it really would have been the easiest route to just say, okay, I'm going to stop putting up a fight for this now. I'm really just I have to walk away, even when it's been better for my mental health, sometimes to just walk away from something. I have reminded myself that Topanga would never do that. Topanga would keep it up. And I think that that's something we can all learn from, and certainly that I have learned from in my life. Come here, brunch.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. I love how much Meg is loving life right now and just really enjoying it. I love it.
There's some tears right there. There's some tears. There's going to be some more coming. All right.
So Carlin, go ahead and ask your question next.
Yay. Hi. Just want to say I'm a really big fan. But I was wondering if there was one specific memory that like you will never forget from shooting either Boy Meets World or Girl Meets World or both. Just anything.
I don't know what Brunch is doing. Brunch never misses an opportunity to be on camera. I will never forget. There's we didn't do very many blooper reels on Boy Meets World, but there's that one episode where Eric is trying to get Topanga. And at the end of the episode, he is hiding inside the couch cushions. And there's just a cutout for his face. And we always talk about the Scream episode that everybody loves so much. And then there was Sean, where we couldn't stop laughing. We've talked about that one a lot. And I think that's one of the reasons we talk about it all the time, is because it's a lot of people's favorite episode and we had a really good time shooting it. But that scene where Will is hiding in the couch cushions was truly one of those times where, I mean, Will was always a consummate professional. I very rarely laughed. Most of the people in that scene very rarely laugh and broke character. We truthfully could not keep it together. And because we were trying so hard to keep it together, we kept making mistakes. And so like in one of the scenes, Ryder and Trina forgot to stand up. And so they were like, just in their head, like, don't laugh, don't laugh. And so they forgot to stand up, and everyone's just like looking at Will, like, come on, you're supposed to stand up and say something. And Will goes, you guys need to stand up off the couch. And like, we just literally, we could not keep it together. And I remember that night, I remember it was late at night when we were filming, and I remember it so vividly because we were tired, we were being unprofessional, but it was just too funny. I will also never remember, I mean, I will never forget filming the last episode, the series finale, because that scene where Mr. Feeney says, you know, class dismissed, and that he tells us that he loves us, we didn't rehearse it all week. We read it once at the table read so the network could hear it and that they could make some changes and make some notes. And then throughout the week, we wanted when we filmed it for it to have real raw emotion. So we didn't want to rehearse it a bunch of times throughout the week, because then by the time you get to taping it, it's been 5 days of saying the same things and it just doesn't feel the same. So we didn't do it at all until we taped it. And we did like one take of it and we all broke down, and it's the take that we used because we couldn't even do a second take. So we did it one time, and all the tears, when you see me break down and cry and hug Mr. Feeney, it was all just true emotion. It wasn't even written that I was supposed to cry. I just couldn't keep it together. So that's definitely something that I'll also never forget.
Thanks so much. That was awesome.
I definitely bawled my eyes out at that scene, and I'm not ashamed.
I think everyone who was a fan of the show did. It was hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Jen Rice, go ahead and ask your question next.
Hi, I'm also a 90s kid who was obsessed. I never missed a Friday night of Boy Meets World ever. I just have to say, some of your best lines, at least mine, is when Corey asks you if his hair is beautiful and you say yes, it's like a desert tumbleweed. I just thought that the early years Topanga, that like really eclectic gal, was just so amazing on TV. It was never anything anyone had ever seen. And also I learned about Spudnik because of Boy Meets World. Didn't know what that was until the show. But I know something you're probably the most proud of is your little boy. Yeah. And as a new mom who's going to become a mom at the end of this summer, I wanted to know if you had any advice for a new mom.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
My best advice for being a new mom or just a new parent is let go of all of your thoughts about what it should be. Drop all the shoulds. You are going to be completely unprepared for what motherhood is, because nothing can truly prepare you for the amount of love that you feel. And also every single child and every birth is different, and every experience, you know, I had all kinds of plans. I am extremely type A. Everything you know to be true about Topanga and the way she is in school, that's how I run my life. I've got a schedule. I like A's. I like to keep it all together. And then my son was born 4 weeks early. He had to spend the first 3 weeks of his life with a, you know, rare disorder called chylothorax. And then we brought him home, and nothing, I wasn't prepared. I thought I had 4 weeks of maternity leave to plan, and then I had none. So all those plans had to go out the window. And the amount of times I've laughed looking back, thinking, what did I think those plans were going to do for me? Like so just your experience becoming a mom will be 100% unique, and give yourself so much grace, because nothing can truly prepare you for parenthood except being a parent. So enjoy it, and give yourself a lot of grace, and sleep as much as you can right now.
Oh, I am. Thank God for quarantine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you for naps. Take those naps.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Allison De Silva, go ahead and ask your question. Allison, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
All good, all good.
Hi. First of all, I've been trying to not cry this whole time. I literally have all of Boy Meets World on disc. I watched that show. I watched all of Girl Meets World. Let me say, like, you've gotten me through so much. Topanga and like her be yourself. My shirt says be yourself, but her like be yourself and don't let anyone tell you different, and just like promoting self-love is like something that I really needed, especially like in the past few years. And just having the show, like, I appreciate you so much. Like, there's not many celebrities, sorry. There's not many celebrities that I would ever meet and like freak out. Literally, I found out they were doing this and I like freaked out and told everyone, and I'm still freaking out. My mom came in during this and I was like, get out, I'm talking to Danielle Fishel.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah, she was like,
I told my mom the same thing today, Allison. I was like, get out. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'm like freaking out. But anyways, do you still keep in touch with the cast, like everyone in the cast, or if not, like who do you keep in touch with?
Yeah, so obviously over the course of 7 years, we had a pretty big cast. Some of us were closer in age and closer in just experience than others. So Will, Ryder, Ben, and myself were all in classrooms together, not just on the show, obviously, but behind the scenes. I think Will is 4 years older than me. So Will was out of school pretty early on, but Ryder, Ben, and I are all within a year of each other school-wise. So for the entire length of the show started in 93, I was 12. And it went until 2000. So I was on the show from 12 to 19. So at least from 12 to 18, I was in school the entire time. And so was Ryder and Ben. And so we obviously, the four of us, Ryder, Will, Ben, and I, are extremely close, because not only were we working together on set, but then when we were done working, we had to go back to school together, and we literally spent all of our time together. Yeah. On top of that, I lived kind of far away from where we taped. And so my mom would drop me off at Ryder or Ben's house, and their moms would, that we basically carpooled to set. So again, the four of us are extremely close. Will still really super keeps in touch with Bill Daniels. Will has like about a monthly phone call check-in with Bill and Bonnie, and then he lets us know how they're doing. I just talked to Trina a couple of weeks ago, although we are 12 years apart, so we weren't like on the show, we were friendly and we got along and we hung out, but we weren't like super close. I was 16 when she started and she was 28.
Yeah.
And let's see, who else? I still talk to on Facebook and stuff. I'm still friends with Betsy and Rusty. Rusty, who was Alan Matthews, he was our dialogue coach on Girl Meets World.
Really?
So I saw him every week through all of Girl Meets World, and a lot of the same crew. I have moved behind the camera now as an older person. I now direct for the Disney Channel, and so a lot of the same crew, even from Boy Meets World, is still working on shows, and I see a lot of the crew. I'll recognize them by they'll wear like a 1995 crew jacket from Boy Meets World, and I'm like, hey, I know you. So yeah, so we have been in and out. Basically, I think the entire cast, all of us, have been in and out of each other's lives at different times, and we either keep in touch with everyone directly ourselves, or someone else is close to someone, and we keep each other updated on how everyone's doing.
That's so amazing. You guys are still like a little family.
It's a good group. And you know what? It is funny because it is like a family for good and bad. You know, like families have their squabbles and their arguments sometimes, and their misunderstandings. And if you look back and you go, wow, we've known each other since 93, or when some of the other cast members came in 96 or 97, it's like it would be impossible to go from 93 to now without ever having a time where you've hurt somebody's feelings, or something was misunderstood, or you know. And the good news is, just like with family, you know that it's just a conversation away from fixing it, and that's kind of how we are.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, right.
So Emma has a question about your directing. So go ahead, Emma.
Yeah, I knew you directed a few episodes of Girl Meets World, so I kind of just went on your IMDb page and saw that you directed for like Raven's Home and like Sydney to the Max. I was like, oh, she directs for the Disney Channel, and I was wondering like, what is it like to be able to direct the different shows on Disney Channel, especially Raven's Home? That is iconic. That's so Raven, love it.
Right?
And what is like what is one memory you have from like directing?
Well, thank you for your question. And yes, I agree with you. Being able to direct Raven's Home was a dream come true. I started directing when we were on Girl Meets World. I directed 4 episodes of that show. And then that was really where I realized that was what I wanted the next phase of my career to be. Acting kind of took a back seat to directing, and I wanted to do it. But it's anytime you want someone to take you seriously as something else that they haven't seen you as, it's hard work, when you make a change and you want people to start seeing you differently. It can be hard. And so after Girl Meets World ended, I went in on meeting after meeting, and I shadowed director after director. So I would go to Raven's Home and I'd watch a director they had hired, and I'd sit there all week doing nothing but observing and paying attention to how they did things. And I wanted people to know that I was taking it very seriously. But it took almost 2 full years for somebody to give me the chance to direct an episode of their show. And that first person to do that was Mark Reisman, who's the executive producer from Sydney to the Max. And he was honest with me. He was like, look, I'm going to be honest with you. The people over at Girl Meets World speak very highly of your directing, but you've only done 4 episodes, and Sydney to the Max is my baby. And I feel like I'm putting it in the hands of someone new to this. And I do trust you, but I'm nervous. And I said, I promise you're in good hands. And I was very nervous. But I took it very seriously, and it went very well. And then after Mark gave me that opportunity, I've now done like 5 or 6 episodes of Sydney to the Max, and I've done about 4 or 5 over at Raven. And I'm extremely grateful to Raven for giving me that opportunity as well. And I also do some episodes of Coop and Cami Ask the World, and I have done an episode of Just Roll With It too. My favorite thing about directing, this is to your second question, my favorite thing about directing, and therefore it's my favorite memory of directing, is being able to work with kids that are the same age I was when I started Boy Meets World. I truly feel like when I'm directing children's programming, I feel like it's my way of giving back to my younger self. I was so lucky to have great role models, good directors, writers, executive producers on Boy Meets World, and we were really raised in an environment that was safe. There's a lot of not so great stuff in the entertainment industry, especially for kids. And Boy Meets World was not a set that you had to worry about any of that stuff. We were protected from a lot. And I look at that and I say, that's the kind of role model I want to be for the kids that I direct for now. And so I take that very seriously, and it's definitely my highlight.
Awesome.
Very cool, very cool. And like Emma said, she looked you up online. For those who are just tuning in, we're here with Danielle Fishel. Danielle, can you plug some of your social media handles again for those who are just like, oh, I'm about to look this up?
Yes, I am at Danielle Fishel on both Instagram and Twitter. And I have a hair care line called Be Free by Danielle Fishel, and that is at Be Free by Danielle Fishel on Instagram as well.
Very cool. I remember when I was in college, and this is going to sound very, very random, and I hope that you remember. I was a big, and I guess I still am, Donald Glover fan, Childish Gambino. And I remember he had this like short film that he like put out that he, I guess, wrote and directed. I don't know if he wrote and directed it, but there was one part of it where I was like, and it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it's college. And I was watching it and I was like, man, that really looks like Topanga.
Yeah.
Was that you? And what was that like working with Danny Glover?
Donald Glover is awesome. He is very talented. He's extremely smart. And so I actually knew him because he was on Community with Joel McHale. And Joel McHale hosted The Soup, which was run and taped right next door to where I taped the sister show to The Soup called The Dish. So Joel basically put me in touch with Donald Glover, and Donald Glover said, listen, I'm doing this short film and I want it to really feel like a dream. I want it to be like kind of a dream-like sequence, and I just want you to be there. And I was like, okay, cool. What are we going to be doing? I expected I just expected some direction on what we were doing. He's like, I don't know. He's like, maybe we'll just pick lemons. And I was like, okay,
And
sure.
it really does feel like a dream. Like when you're watching it, that's why I was saying, I was like, man, was that Topanga? And like,
Yeah.
there was like no direction with this at all.
No, and then I never come back. It's never explained. Doesn't
Never explain why you're there. No, you were just there. And like, that was all in the comments. Like, yeah, that was Topanga. I saw her, you know, not Danielle, it was Topanga who was.
I know. Yeah. It's okay. I answer to everything.
Very cool. Very cool.
Oh my goodness. So our next question is from Kayla. So Kayla, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, I was wondering, so like what inspired your new hair care line? Was it because everyone was like obsessed with Topanga's hair?
Thank you for your question. No, actually, I didn't, to be 100% honest, I didn't want to start a hair care line. I had been approached several times over the course of my life to be involved with hair care products. People have been very kind to me and told me that I have nice hair and that I, you know, certainly on Boy Meets World, my hair was all the way down, you know, down my back, and I had cool hairstyles. And I just never did it because I'm really big on authenticity, and it didn't feel authentic to me to just partner with somebody because people like my hair and I could now sell them products. I really, I was happy with the products I was using. I changed them out regularly. I used whatever I wanted, but I was definitely more of the mindset that ignorance was bliss. I didn't know what was in any of the products I used, and I didn't care. As long as they worked, I was happy. And then when I found out I was pregnant, my husband and I went to our very first ultrasound appointment, and we heard my son's heartbeat. And all of a sudden I was like, oh yeah, this is why I'm limiting myself to 1 cup of coffee every day. This is why I should care about everything I'm using, because everything that's going into my body is now going into my son's body. And so I went home and I used one of those apps, you know, the Think Dirty app, where you can scan your products and it tells you how bad for you they are. And I surprisingly had mostly clean, like skincare products. There were some that were not so good, but most of them were clean. But my hair care products were awful. Like they were an 8 or a 9 out of 10, 10 being the worst for you. And I thought, okay, well, I don't want to use these anymore. There have to be natural products out there that people love. So I started Googling, I started asking my friends, what are you using? What are you using? And basically everyone I spoke to either was still using the stuff that was bad for them because it worked, or they were using something they didn't like, but it was healthy. And I was like, man, there has to be a happy medium. There has to be something that isn't super harmful for you, but that also still works. And I did some research and I ordered a bunch of different products, and I ended up in the same boat. I didn't find anything I loved. And so at that point, I was like, all right, if I feel this need and I think there's this lack in the hair care industry, other people have to feel it too. And so that's when then I contacted a lab that's based in the United States. And I said, here are the things I'm looking for. I want it to be vegan. I want it to be cruelty free. I want it to be made in the United States. I don't want it to have sulfates or phthalates. And I sent them my list of wants. And then they were like, okay, well, here's what we could do. And basically we went back and forth over the course of several months, trying different products, me researching all of the ingredients, figuring out what I was comfortable with, what I was not comfortable with, until we found a shampoo, a conditioner, and a scalp refresh that is incredible for flaky scalp, for dandruff, and for hair growth, because I was trying to ward off postpartum hair loss. And once I found the ingredients that I was comfortable with, and I knew that the product worked because I was using it myself regularly, that's when then I decided to release it for public consumption. And so that's how it started. And we just launched in December of last year.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm gonna have to check that out. I have a whole lot of hair, so
I like it. It's very good.
I got a whole lot of hair now because I can't go to the barber, but I normally just buzz it all off. You know?
I need a haircut so bad.
All right.
Emily Dawson, go ahead and ask your question.
I think the person that asked about Philadelphia was before me.
Okay, I just saw yours. So we had a question. Oh, Allison again. She wanted to know if any of Boy Meets World was ever actually filmed in Philadelphia.
Nope, none of it. It was all filmed in Los Angeles, California. Except for that one episode where we went to Disney World.
Okay. We're also streaming from Facebook, Danielle. So we have people that are asking questions there. So we're just going to ask one from Facebook. The question is from Courtney Carter. She says, having basically grown up acting on this show, what kind of impact do you feel that it has had on your personality?
Man, good question.
Always that one person on Facebook that's streaming that asked that really good one.
It is a good question. It's hard to say because, like I said, I feel like I've known Topanga. I've known her almost as long as I've been alive. 93. I was only 12 when I started playing her, and so I don't know how much of who I am today was influenced by this character that I played so closely for so many years, and then got to revisit as an adult. 2 decades later. But I also think, being a child actor, and I made a lot of choices when I was a kid. One of them that I think is probably the most important was that school was really important to me. Let me clarify. School was not the actual important part. Being a normal kid was the important part. I was not actually I was not as Topanga about school when I was in high school as I was when I was in college. When I was in college, I was exactly like Topanga. I got 2 B's in all of college, and both times I sobbed. I was like, I can't believe I got a B. It was like the most Topanga thing I had ever done in my life. But when I was in high school, I didn't care so much about grades as much as I cared about, seeing my friends and being in the quad and like going to the football games and all that kind of stuff. And so I made the decision really early on that every hiatus week we had. So the way our work schedule was when we were on Boy Meets World is we would do 3 episodes in a row. So we'd work 3 weeks in a row, and then we'd take 1 week off. And on that 1 week off, most kids who are child actors stay on set and do their school with their school teachers, because going back is really difficult. You're popping in the middle of the week sometimes. You're not necessarily right on track with where they've been because you're working 10.5 hours a day on top of doing your schoolwork. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to go back every single week. And so I did. I'd work 3 weeks and then I'd go back to my regular school so that I had some sense of normalcy. And I think that really benefited my personality to that question. Unlike a lot of children who've worked in the entertainment industry since they were really young, I did have a second life that was more normal than most children that are just kind of raised on sets their entire life. And I think that helped ground me. My mom was also really good at being like, you may be a celebrity out there, but when you're here, you got to pick up the dog poop. That's what life is here. You pick up dog poop.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously all those A's, really helped out in life because you ended up writing a book. So we want to make sure we plug that as well. I see it on Amazon, so all of you can check it out on Amazon. It's called Normally This Would Be a Cause for Concern, Tales of Calamity and Unrelenting Awkwardness. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, that's basically a book of just all of the times I should have been really mortified and embarrassed in my life. And thankfully, I'm not too embarrassed. My husband has encouraged me to write another book because certainly that book it's a great, we would call it like a good beach read. You could read it by the pool, you could read it on the beach, you're going to read through it really fast, but there's nothing exactly deep or poignant in it. And since the time that I wrote that book, I have had a lot of life experience that thankfully has changed me for the better. And so my husband has encouraged me to write a new, different type of book, but I have not even come close to starting on that yet, if it does ever happen.
Okay. Before you were on, we had Zach Gowen from the WWE, and he told us, and I don't know how he knew this, but he said, Danielle is a huge WWE fan.
I am a wrestling fan. Yeah. My husband has taken me years ago. First of all, we had a lot of wrestlers on Boy Meets World. Mm-hmm. I was pretty familiar with the wrestling community back then. And then when Boy Meets World ended, I dated somebody who was very into wrestling. And so I had gone to a couple WrestleMania events. I had gone to Raw, and then I didn't pay attention to it for years. And then my husband brought me to an independent wrestling place out here called PWG. And they turned out a lot of stars that ended up going to WWE. And so I have now become a really big fan of, not necessarily of the WWE, but certainly of independent wrestling, and a lot of WWE stars are people I am a fan of.
Very nice. We have our last question, our very last one. It's, who is this? This is Luke. Luke, you're up. You're last, man. Look at that.
Oh my goodness, that's so stressful. Danielle, I just want to say you're an absolute legend. You're obviously such an inspiration to so many women. I love your relationship with Sabrina. I see all the shout outs on Instagram. Like, it's so sweet and endearing there. Growing up in a house full of of women. I learned so much from my mom and my sisters. Courtney Carter is actually my sister, the one who asked the question earlier. Glad she got that in there. But I learned so much from women. I learned so much from you and your character. I was wondering, like, your thoughts around men who watched Boy Meets World growing up and like kind of their takeaways from that. Do you think there was ever any intention for men or men identifying folk to learn from Topanga, or was that more female centric in terms of the messages there?
Wow, another good question. You guys asked very good, thoughtful questions. You know, I think one of the greatest things about Boy Meets World was the fact that it was a place for, with there being a young boy as the lead, and a lot of, certainly back then, I hope less so now, but certainly back then, there was a big emphasis on boys not expressing their feelings or keeping things in. And I think watching a show with a young boy as the lead who was going through real life struggles that people who were watching were also going through, and watching how he processed them and how he emotionally dealt with them, I think that was incredibly helpful. And I had never really thought about whether or not Topanga was also there to teach lessons to young boys about how to be respectful of women and respectful, I'd never really thought about that, but I would hope so. If that is the case, if that is something, I can honestly say, I don't think any man has said that to me. Like, hey, Topanga taught me a lot about how to be respectful. If that's the case, that is amazing. I had usually always just kind of thought about Topanga as being what a pleasure and a joy for me to be able to play a character that was such a good role model for women. But you're right, she's also a darn good role model for men.
Absolutely, I would agree.
Thank you. I got shakes right
that
now.
We were here with Danielle Fishel. She told us a lot about her past, her career, working on the show, her book, her hairline products. We talked about a lot of things today. Thank you so much for joining and speaking with our students. What we've allowed our speakers to do is kind of have the last word. So if there is like a key to life that you have, or you've been dropping gems of knowledge and wisdom on us all throughout the broadcast, but if there was one thing that you wanted to leave with the students, what would that one thing be?
That one thing would be, when I have looked back over the course of my life, for all of the most poignant times, they've always, the best times of change for me have always been have always come right after a feeling of extreme chaos. And I think that there's one thing we're all feeling right now during this pandemic, which is a feeling of just total uncertainty. And uncertainty presents itself to be an opportunity to really, you can go this way or you can go that way. And we have a real opportunity now to take this and become introspective and walk out of this with taking things and amplifying things we want to keep, and leaving behind things that are no longer suiting us. And so this is not a rally cry to learn a new language, or to, this is a stressful time for a lot of people. If you just want to rest, just rest. But if there's one thing I would encourage you to do, it is to spend some quiet time every single day, thinking of the things that make you feel better, and thinking of the things that have been making you feel worse. And when you leave this time, leave behind the things that make you feel worse, and spend more time doing the things that have made you feel better.
Absolutely. Danielle, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. If you liked what you were watching today, please make sure you follow us for the rest of the week. We have Al Roker tomorrow at 1 p.m. Don't want to miss them. Oh, and Danielle, if you want to be a part of any of these, by all means, you can jump on any of these Zooms with us. We'd love to have you. We have Joshua Triplett tomorrow as well. He's on the show right now with Cedric the Entertainer, called The Neighbors. We got Sway, Shea 45, Sway in the morning. Also tomorrow, and then on Friday, we have Cedric and Barbara, obviously Reno 911, the Boondocks, and Officer Meow Meow on on BoJack Horseman. So we hope that you all join us, and we will see you then, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.